I'm Jasmine Ellery. I'm 28 years old, and I thought I had a solid marriage, built on patience, mutual goals, and transparency. Colin and I have been married for a little over a year, and like most young couples, we talked about everything: our careers, finances, and of course, the topic of having children. It wasn't that we didn't want a family. We did, but we agreed it could wait. I had just landed the biggest opportunity of my career: a 4-month international marketing campaign rollout across Asia for a major fashion brand. This was the kind of project that could elevate me from regional campaigns to global creative lead. When I brought it up with Colin, I was bracing myself for resistance. I thought maybe he'd be disappointed. Maybe he'd feel neglected. But no. He smiled, wrapped his arms around me, and said, "I'll be here when you get back. We've got time, Jazz. Chase your moment." It felt like love. It felt like support. He even went with me to my parents' house that weekend and helped me explain the plan. My mom, Darlene, was a little worried at first. She kept hinting at wanting grandbabies sooner rather than later, but even she admitted the opportunity was too good to pass up. My dad, Gregory, gave me his usual nod of approval and said, "Just make sure you come back with more than frequent flyer miles." We had dinner with Colin's parents too, Patricia and Edward Drake, who were as polished and proper as ever. Patricia had a way of saying supportive things while scanning me like I was her employee. Still, she agreed with the delay. "Careers first, darling. Children complicate everything," she had said with a smile that didn't quite touch her eyes. But still, support, overall. So I left. I packed my bags, kissed my husband goodbye at SeaTac, and boarded a 14-hour flight to Tokyo to begin a new chapter in my career. And for the first few weeks, it was everything I hoped it would be. I was presenting to rooms full of powerful people in Tokyo, then Seoul, then Singapore. I toured textile mills, hosted influencer brunches, and even landed a surprise feature in an international fashion journal. Colin called me every night, sometimes through video, sometimes just to leave sweet voicemails when time zones didn't cooperate. I saved those voicemails. I'd play them when I got homesick. His voice grounded me. It reminded me what I was working for: a home, a future, a family, with him. We even talked baby names once during a call from a hotel balcony in Chiang Mai. He said he liked the name Isla for a girl. I told him I liked Milo for a boy. We laughed and agreed to table the discussion until next year. Everything was going well, until it wasn't. 3.5 months into the trip, I wrapped up the final phase early. One of our events in Jakarta was canceled due to weather, which bumped up my flight schedule. I didn't tell Colin I was coming home early. I thought it'd be a fun surprise. I imagined walking into our living room, seeing the shock on his face, and falling into his arms like some cheesy romantic comedy. I landed in Seattle on a gray, drizzly Thursday morning. I was exhausted and jet-lagged, still in my beige trench coat and heels, dragging my suitcase behind me, weaving through the terminal when it happened. I wasn't looking, just rushing, and I bumped into someone. Hard. She dropped her phone. I bent down to pick it up, murmuring an apology when something caught my eye. Her phone screen was still lit. The lock screen wallpaper was a photo of her and Colin, laughing, shirtless, on a beach, wrapped in hotel robes with flower garlands around their necks. I froze. Not because I doubted it. I knew that laugh. I knew that shoulder mole. I knew my husband. The woman, mid-20s, pretty, maybe 5 months along in her pregnancy, smiled as she took her phone back. I tried to play it cool. "That's a beautiful photo," I said casually, my heart punching against my ribs. "Oh, thanks," she beamed. "It was last month, our anniversary trip to Maui. He surprised me." "Is that your boyfriend?" She grinned. "Well, fiancé, actually. Colin Drake. We've been together about 8 months. I'm 3 months pregnant. He's amazing. Her face, her tone. She had no idea. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask, "What the hell do you mean, fiancé?" But instead, I just stood there, blinking. She glanced at her boarding pass and sighed. He said he'll meet me at the gate. Maldives this time. Baby moon. Baby moon. I smiled weakly and told her to take care. She thanked me again, rolled her suitcase toward gate C9, and disappeared into the crowd. I didn't follow her. I didn't chase her down or confront her or call my husband. I didn't do any of the things you imagine you'd do in that moment. I just sat down on a bench near the baggage claim, hands shaking, trying not to vomit. In the span of 90 seconds, everything I thought I knew about my life had evaporated. My marriage, my home, my plans, gone. And I hadn't even made it past arrivals. I don't know how long I sat there, on that cold bench in the arrivals terminal, my suitcase still upright beside me like it knew where home was, even if I didn't anymore. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. My breath kept catching in my throat, like my body was trying to cry, but my mind was too stunned to let it. It was a strange kind of stillness, like the world had paused, waiting to see if I'd break. Eventually, I stood. My legs felt like rubber. I walked to the airport cafe and ordered tea, purely out of habit. I couldn't taste a single sip. My mind was still stuck on that photo. Her and Colin, smiling, laughing, in robes. An anniversary trip? 8 months? Pregnant? Fiancé? That woman, Lena, I would later learn, didn't even seem suspicious. She looked proud, genuinely happy. It made me sick. He hadn't just lied to me. He had built an entirely different version of himself for her. A version that didn't include a wife on the other side of the world. Colin had told me he was going on a month-long legal conference in Boston. Said it was for ongoing litigation training. Said he'd be busy and wouldn't be able to FaceTime much. Said he loved me. He lied. That was when the shaking stopped. That was the moment the sadness started to turn into something else. Something steadier. Colder. I will not break for a man who crafted this lie so carefully he had the nerve to propose to someone else while married to me. I wasn't going to go home. Not yet. I didn't want him to know I was back. If he saw me walk through that front door, he'd spin another tale, pull the same soft tone he used when he was too tired to talk, or too busy to visit her parents with me. No. I needed time. I needed strategy. So I booked a room at the hotel across from our building, literally across the street from our condo. The same one we'd picked together just 10 months earlier. From my suite window, I could see our balcony. I sat there that night, watching, waiting. No lights turned on in our unit. No sign of Colin. He must have flown out to the Maldives right after dropping that woman off. The next morning, I took the elevator down, walked around the corner to our building, and let myself in with my key. Our condo was still as I left it, except for one change. There was a note on the kitchen counter in his handwriting. "Hey babe, hope you're crushing it out there. I'm flying to Boston early for the conference. I'll be back in a month, maybe longer depending on the case. Love you." See. There it was, the cover story. Neatly penned, innocent, complete with a little heart doodled in the corner. It made my stomach churn. I walked through the living room, noting a few new things. A suitcase that wasn't mine, a bottle of perfume I didn't own, 2 wine glasses in the sink. Sloppy. I checked our bedroom closet. Some of his clothes were missing. Definitely packed for a beach trip. On instinct, I opened the bathroom drawer. Tucked beneath a stack of folded towels was a small square envelope. I pulled it out. It was a sonogram, dated 2 weeks ago. The name on the form, Lena Morell. He didn't even try to hide it well. I sat on the edge of the tub and held the sonogram in my hand like it might offer some explanation. I wasn't angry at her. Not yet. She was likely just another victim of Colin's polished lies. But I needed to know the extent. I needed the truth. I texted my best friend Nina. Me. Back in Seattle. Found something. Need to talk. Discretion, please. She called instantly. I gave her the short version. She was silent for a few seconds, then said, "You want me to help you bury him or just ruin him?" I laughed for the first time in 24 hours. Let's start with ruin. Later that evening, I called my parents. I didn't tell them everything, just that I had returned early due to a schedule change. They were surprised but warm, asking how I'd been, saying they missed me. Then my mother said something odd. "We weren't sure when we'd see you again. Colin said you extended your trip to Bali for another few weeks, and he mentioned you were seeing someone? A man you met overseas?" I nearly dropped the phone. He hadn't just lied to me, he lied about me to my family. He had planted a narrative that I had stayed longer, that I was cheating, that I'd moved on. A preemptive strike. My father, ever the calm observer, asked, "Is everything okay, sweetheart?" I paused. "It will be, Dad. I promise." I ended the call soon after, claiming exhaustion. Then I sat in silence, piecing it all together. Colin hadn't just betrayed me romantically. He had crafted an alternate timeline. In his version, I was the absent one. I was unfaithful. He was just a devoted husband left behind, finding comfort elsewhere. It was all theater, and I'd just walked into Act 3. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't plan for, was that I was back early. And I was done playing the quiet, trusting wife. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just stab you in the back. It makes you question every conversation, every touch, every smile that came before it. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, our bed, surrounded by the scent of betrayal and that strange perfume that didn't belong to me. I stared at the ceiling and rewound everything. Every "I love you," every "I miss you," every "good luck with the Tokyo pitch." How long had he rehearsed it? How long had I been his alibi? At 2:17 a.m., I got out of bed and walked to the kitchen. I opened the drawer where we kept spare chargers and pulled out Colin's old iPad. He rarely used it anymore, claiming it was outdated, but I knew the password. His birthday, plus the last 4 digits of our old apartment. It unlocked instantly. The home screen was harmless. A few apps, some stock reports, his work email. I tapped into the message history. Nothing obvious there. Then I opened the Notes app. That's where things began to rot. He had entire message drafts saved, ones he had clearly sent to Lena, but framed in a way that suggested I was some mysterious, emotionally distant wife. One read, "I know I should leave her, but I need to do it right. She's been unstable lately. I don't want to trigger anything reckless." Unstable? Another one. "She won't be back from Asia for months. I think she's seeing someone out there anyway. She's basically moved on." That was the moment my hands began to shake again. Colin wasn't just lying, he was erasing me, rewriting my character into something unrecognizable so he could slip away cleanly. I screen recorded everything, every note, every timestamp. I emailed the files to myself, then to Nina, just in case. The next morning, I checked our Nest camera history. He had deleted most of it, but I managed to retrieve a backup file from the cloud. There were gaps, sure, but there was one grainy clip from the week before I came back. Colin, standing at the door in swim trunks, wheeling out luggage. And behind him, Lena, dressed in a flowy maxi dress, holding her baby bump, smiling like she'd won. She had no idea she was walking into a castle built on lies. I opened my laptop and pulled up our joint calendar. That's when I saw the final blow. There, In bright blue letters was an event blocked out 2 weeks from now. Drake Morell wedding planning consultation. He was planning the wedding before the divorce. Before he even asked me for one. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. I closed the laptop slowly. My stomach turned, not with sadness, but with something colder, steadier. This man thought he was brilliant, thought he'd built the perfect exit ramp, thought I'd never catch on, thought I'd be sipping coconut water in Bali while he rebranded himself as a poor, abandoned husband just trying to find love again. What he didn't expect, what he never accounted for, was that I'd come home early. I grabbed my phone and texted Nina again. Me. I need a burner account. One that looks real. Nina. Ooh, what are we doing? Me. Fishing. Within hours, she had created a full Instagram persona for me, an account for Juliet Kane, a 30-something wellness blogger with mutual followers, a few thousand curated photos, and a soothing aesthetic. It was perfect bait. I used the account to follow Lena. She followed back within the hour. I waited a day. Then I messaged her. Juliet Kane. Hi there. I saw your post about expecting. Congratulations, I'm actually due in a few months too. Would love to connect. Lena responded quickly, sweetly, naively. Over the course of a week, we chatted like two mom bloggers. She shared details about the baby, Colin, their future plans. She was so open it hurt. She didn't know I was her, the real wife, the one she'd unknowingly replaced. She sent me a voice message one night, gushing about how Colin told her she was the light he'd been missing and how he couldn't wait to be a father again. Again. I saved that audio file too. Everything I collected, his notes, her messages, the nest clips, the email history, I put it in a folder labeled Truth. And then I made a decision. I wouldn't confront him in private. That would be too easy. I would do it in front of the people he lied to, in front of the ones he convinced I had lost my mind, cheated, or vanished. I texted my parents, his parents, and a few close mutual friends and invited them to a small dinner at our place the following Saturday. Just wanted to share something important with the people we love, I wrote. Colin will be home soon, and I think it's time. I even invited Lena, under Juliet's name. I told her I was hosting a dinner for expectant moms and thought she'd enjoy meeting others in her stage of life. She said yes without hesitation. She still had no idea what was coming. I spent the next 2 days rehearsing how I'd do it. Whether I'd cry, whether I'd scream, whether I'd stay silent and let the evidence speak for itself. In the end, I didn't have to plan every detail. Because when people lie with that much confidence, all you need to do is press play and let the room implode. I spent Thursday and Friday like a woman possessed, not out of rage, but out of clarity. It was the kind of focus that comes when you've been betrayed so thoroughly that grief burns off and only purpose remains. I knew what I had to do. This wasn't just about exposing Colin to his family. This was about reclaiming the truth before he twisted it beyond recognition. Because I wasn't going to be his ghost wife, the one who disappeared into her career or emotionally checked out. No, not this time. Friday morning, I walked into the apartment building's media room and reserved the lounge for Saturday evening. I told the concierge we were having a small celebration, a toast to future plans. Not a lie. Just not his future. Then I called Nina. She arrived with 2 iced coffees, a stack of Post-its, a USB drive, and the fire of 10 women scorned. We sat at my kitchen counter, the sonogram photo still resting where I'd left it. Okay, she said, flipping open her laptop. What are we showing first? His notes or the baby announcement? Let's start with love, I replied, then hit them with the timeline. We built the presentation like a prosecutor prepping for trial. Slide 1, photos of Colin and Lena, vacation selfies, Instagram posts, Even a photo I'd found on Lena's Facebook from the Maui trip, both of them in matching robes. It mirrored the wallpaper I saw on her phone the day we collided. Slide 2. A video montage of voice recordings, carefully trimmed. Lena's soft, excited voice saying, "He told me she's unstable. They're basically separated now." Slide 3. A screenshot of Colin's calendar entry. Wedding consultation, Lena Morel. Just 2 weeks away. Slide 4. His notes to Lena, including the one where he claimed I had a new boyfriend in Asia. Slide 5. The ultrasound with her name and the date. Slide 6. A clip from our Nest camera, showing Colin rolling a suitcase while Lena followed, visibly pregnant and glowing. And finally, Slide 7. A photo of our wedding day. Me in lace, smiling at him like I believed I had the rest of my life figured out. We added a final screen with one word: loyalty. Just to twist the knife. Nina turned to me and asked, "Are you sure you want to do this in front of everyone? Your parents? His?" I nodded. He made me the villain in their eyes. I'm just giving them the actual script. The next morning, I picked up catering from his favorite local spot: bourbon-glazed salmon, garlic butter green beans, and lemon orzo salad. I even bought a red velvet cake and had the bakery right. To new beginnings. It was almost too poetic. That afternoon, I lit candles, chilled wine, and arranged the apartment like I was welcoming old friends, not setting a stage for public humiliation. At exactly 6:45 p.m., the doorbell rang. My parents arrived first. My mother, Darlene, brought a small bouquet. "You look calm," she said slowly. "I am," I replied, kissing her cheek. "It's good to have you here." Then came Colin's parents, Patricia and Edward Drake. She was in pearls, as usual. He wore a blazer like he was on his way to a Rotary meeting. They looked confused but pleasant. Others trickled in. 3 of Colin's close friends, 1 of mine, and finally Nina, who gave me a subtle nod as she passed through the door. She set her laptop on the console near the TV and whispered, "Everything's ready." Colin wasn't there yet, and neither was Lena. I didn't panic. This was a performance, and timing was everything. At 7:11 p.m., the front door opened. Colin walked in like he owned the room, sun-kissed from vacation, wearing a linen shirt and looking smug. His smile faltered for half a second when he saw the room full of people. Then he covered it with charm. "Wow, babe. What's all this?" "A celebration," I said, handing him a glass of wine. "You're just in time." He looked around. "Didn't know we were having guests tonight." I shrugged. "Surprises happen." He kissed my cheek, the way he always did when he felt nervous. I didn't flinch. I clinked my glass with a spoon. "Thank you all for coming. I've been away for a while, and it's been a strange, revealing few weeks. But before we eat, there's something I'd like to share with you." Nina hit play. The room dimmed, and the first slide filled the screen. Colin and Lena, arms wrapped around each other, tropical skies behind them. There was a ripple through the crowd. Patricia's eyes narrowed. My father stiffened. Then came Lena's voice. Sweet. Clear. Oblivious. "He told me she's emotionally distant, that she's off finding herself with some guy in Bali." Colin froze. His wine glass clinked softly as it met the coffee table. "What is this?" he asked. "Evidence," I said quietly. "Truth." The slideshow continued. Photos, screenshots, the ultrasound. When the Nest camera footage played, Patricia gasped. Edward looked like someone had kicked him in the gut. Colin stood up. "Jasmine, what the hell are you doing?" But I didn't answer, because that's when Lena walked in. She was wearing a pale green maxi dress and carrying a small gift bag. She stopped cold as the slideshow hit the final slide, our wedding photo. She turned to Colin. "You told me she left you. You told me she cheated. That she was out of your life. Colin opened his mouth, but no words came out. Patricia whispered, "You have another woman pregnant?" Lena's hand dropped the gift bag. "You're still married?" Colin looked around like the walls were closing in. "Okay, everyone just calm down," he said, palms up. "This has gotten way out of hand." "No," I said, rising to my feet. "You got out of hand. You crafted an entire fiction, made me the bad guy. To my parents, to yours, to her." I turned to the room. I was gone for work, building something real, while he was building a fantasy. Colin tried again. "Jess, I can explain." "No," I said, holding up a hand. "You're going to pack your things and leave tonight. And I suggest you find a lawyer." The room fell silent. Only the hum of the projector remained. I looked at Lena. "I'm sorry you were lied to, truly. But now you know." She nodded once, tight, ashamed, and walked out without another word. Colin just stood there, staring at the wreckage he'd created, and I watched him like a woman seeing clearly for the first time. Colin didn't move. He stood in the center of the room, motionless, like if he stayed still long enough, the moment would pass and time would reverse. But there was no going back. Not now. Not after the slideshow. Not after Lena's arrival. Not after his lies collapsed in front of the very people he swore would never find out. And me? I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was done with that. My silence had once been his shield, but not anymore. Patricia Drake was the first to speak after the silence settled. Her voice was sharp and clipped, the way it always got when her perfect image cracked. "Colin, I need you to tell me this is a misunderstanding." Colin looked at her, then at Edward, then at my parents. Everyone's eyes were on him. "It's not what it looks like," he said weakly, his voice hoarse. Edward crossed his arms. "Really? Because it looks like you impregnated another woman while still married to Jasmine, lied to both families, and planned a wedding before even filing for divorce." Colin's mouth opened, but nothing came out. He looked at me, pleading silently for a lifeline, but I didn't offer one. He had dug the hole. I just provided the spotlight. My mother, Darlene, turned to me. "You knew this whole time?" "Not the whole time," I said. "Only since I landed last week and bumped into Lena at the airport." She dropped her phone. Her lock screen was a photo of the two of them in Maui. That's how I found out. Gregory, my dad, stood quietly behind my mother, jaw clenched, eyes unreadable. He had always been a man of few words, but when he spoke, he meant every syllable. "This is shameful," he said at last. "You made her look unstable. You told us she was the problem." Colin's tone turned defensive now, desperate. "Look, I was confused, okay? I thought Jazz and I were done. She was gone for months. I felt abandoned." My head tilted slightly. "You encouraged me to take that job, Colin. You helped me prep. You told both families it was the right move for our future. So which is it? Was I chasing a dream, or was I running away from a marriage you'd already given up on?" He didn't answer, because he had none. Lena had quietly taken a seat on the edge of the couch, her face pale, her hands resting on her belly. She looked at him now with such visible heartbreak it almost made me pity her. "You lied to me," she said. "You said she was out of the picture, that the marriage was over. You told me we were starting fresh." "I was going to tell you," he said quickly. "After the trip." Lena blinked. "You were going to marry me, while still married." She rose to her feet, shook her head, and whispered, "You're disgusting." Then she turned and left, this time for good. Nina moved to my side and whispered, "You want me to start packing his stuff?" I almost laughed. Instead, I addressed the room. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I know this isn't what you expected, but it's what I needed." I wasn't going to let him rewrite the story of my life and make me the villain. Not in front of the people I love. Not after everything I gave to this marriage. Patricia was still sitting, frozen. "You're going to ruin him," she murmured. I turned to her, calm but clear. "He ruined himself." I just turned on the lights. Colin tried one last time. "Jazz, please. Can we talk in private?" "We've said everything that needs to be said," I replied. Then I pointed to the hallway. "You have until tomorrow afternoon to gather your things. After that, the locks change." He swallowed hard, but he didn't argue. He left. No suitcase, no shoes, just walked out the door like a shadow sliding across the floor. One by one, the guests followed. Some hugged me, some offered apologies, some said nothing. They just looked at me with wide, shell-shocked eyes, as if they'd witnessed a public execution. And in a way, they had. Only one person stayed behind, Edward Drake. He lingered by the fireplace, staring at the last slide on the screen, our wedding photo. He spoke without turning. "I knew he wasn't ready, but I hoped you'd be the one to make him grow up." I nodded slowly. "I hoped that too." He turned to me. "I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I think you handled this with more dignity than he ever deserved." I thanked him, and then he left, quietly closing the door behind him. Nina and I sat on the couch for a long while after. No TV, no music. Just the hum of the dishwasher and the crackle of a nearly dead candle. "Do you regret doing it this way?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not for a second." She smiled. "You should sleep. You've earned it." "I will," I said, but I didn't move. Because I knew tomorrow would bring a new storm. Divorce filings, gossip, fallout. But for that night, I allowed myself to rest in the silence of my own courage. He thought he could rewrite my story behind my back. But I came home early. And I brought the truth with me. The morning after the dinner, I woke up before sunrise. For the first time in days, I didn't feel panic rush into my chest as my eyes opened. I didn't reach for my phone to double-check receipts, messages, flight times, or voice memos. The war was over. The apartment was still. The kind of quiet that comes after a storm levels the land, and all that's left is the rebuilding. I walked to the kitchen, made myself a cup of coffee, and stared out at the skyline. It looked different now. Not because the buildings had changed, but because I had. I wasn't looking at Seattle as a wife anymore. I was looking at it as a woman stepping into her own story again. By 9 a.m., Colin's belongings were boxed at the front door. I didn't throw anything out. I didn't smash picture frames or slash his suits. That's not my style. The truth was already louder than any tantrum I could have thrown. At 2 p.m., a courier arrived to deliver the divorce petition, pre-filled and notarized. Thanks to Nina's lawyer friend, everything was already in motion. Colin had 30 days to respond. I didn't expect a fight, not after the way he'd been exposed. But even if he did fight, it didn't matter. I had evidence. I had witnesses. I had Lena, who'd already messaged me. "Lena, I didn't know. I swear. I never would have gone through with it if I had. Me. I believe you. Take care of yourself and the baby. You both deserve better." She left Seattle the next day, moved in with her sister in Portland. I wished her well. Word spread faster than I expected. By Monday morning, my inbox was flooded with messages from friends, acquaintances, even colleagues from Colin's law firm. Whispers of, "Did you hear what happened to Drake?" circled like wildfire. Apparently, Colin had been put on administrative leave pending internal review, client misconduct, and reputational risk. Nina forwarded me a LinkedIn update. Someone had already removed him from a leadership directory. Funny how fast people backpedal when the mask slips. And my parents? Darlene and Gregory showed up that afternoon with groceries and zero judgment. My mother hugged me tighter than she had in years. I'm sorry I doubted you, she whispered. You never had to prove anything, but the way you did, I've never been prouder. We sat around the kitchen island and talked, not about Colin, but about me, about what came next. It was the first time I felt like me in months. And what did come next? I took 2 weeks off work, not to hide, but to rest. I didn't need to escape to Bali to find peace. I found it right here, in my own skin, in my reclaimed space. Then something unexpected happened. A blog picked up my anonymous post from a private support group Nina and I had both joined. Women sharing betrayal stories, gathering strength in solidarity. I'd posted my story under the title, I Came Home Early and Walked into the Truth. Within days, it was shared over 1,000 times. People messaged to say they'd been through the same, that they stayed silent for too long, that my story gave them courage to leave, to speak, to stop apologizing for someone else's cruelty. I didn't post to go viral, but I wasn't going to hide either. One woman asked me if I'd ever consider turning my experience into something bigger, maybe even a platform to help women spot deception, rebuild after infidelity, and protect themselves legally and emotionally. That seed stayed with me. 3 months later, Clearview Collective launched, an online community and resource hub for women recovering from betrayal. Legal templates, support forums, guest speakers, survivor stories. It didn't replace the pain, but it transformed it. I still remember the last thing Colin said to me before leaving with his suitcase the day after our dinner. You could have just handled this quietly, Jasmine. You didn't have to humiliate me. And I remember my response, without hesitation. You humiliated yourself. I just stopped covering for you. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't require performance. It just needs light. So here I am, months later, stronger than I ever imagined. No ring on my finger, no apologies in my mouth. Just a steady heartbeat, a clear conscience, and a life I now own completely. He thought I'd be halfway across the world, blind, loyal, and too trusting to know better. But I came home early, and what I found shattered the illusion and built my freedom.